Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there, Nation. Welcome to the show where we show you how to play miniatures wargaming at a budget, and welcome to another edition of Age of the Realms, which is our Warhammer Age of Sigmar battle reports. This is battle report number 4. It is I, Commander Cheapskate of the Wild Hunt, which is my Sylvaneth army, versus King Khalifa of the Schwarzwald Free Companies of the Empire. So this is kind of a neat little battle. We get to see what happens exactly when Sylvaneth gets tied up with the Empire and see how that works. I will warn you now, my friend King Khalifa is kind of a new player when it comes to Age of Sigmar. He was a big 8th edition player, had his reservations about getting to Age of Sigmar, decided I want to try it out, so he borrowed my Empire army and wanted to see what it was all about. So yeah, just to leave that know ahead of time, he's kind of new to the game. But aside from that, let's go and see what happens with this battle report.
Assemble the army!
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's go and talk about my army. My army is the Wild Hunt. It is a Sylvaneth Guardians of the Deepwood Battalions. Let's go and go through the list. First all, leading my army is Darthu. He is pretty beastly. I love that guy. He's awesome in Age of Sigmar. Next to him comes Kuadil, who's my Tree Man Ancient, followed by Sternmark, who is my Tree Man. After that, we have Dryka, who is a Branch Wraith, and then we start getting to my units. Now we have the 4 Shamblers, which is my unit of 6 Treekin, the Martyrs and Poets, which is another unit of 6 Treekin, the Court of Summers, which is a unit of 20 Dryads of the Branch Nymph, and another unit of 20 Dryads of the Branch Nymph called the Court of Winters. So that makes up my army for this one. Alright, so let's get to my opponent's army. It's called the Schwarzwald Free Companies. It is an Empire State Troops Detachment Battalion. So, leading his army is Dieter Moons, the Griffin Guard, who is an Empire General with a stately war banner. After him comes Gregor von Drachenfels the Grim, who is a warrior prince armed with a great warhammer. Next comes Victor Helsbrad of the Wilds, who is an Empire Wizard of the Order of Light. Next, we have a hero choice, which is Marcus Wolfhart. After that, we have the Black Company, which is 20 great swords with a champion, as well as a standard bearer and a drummer. Next comes the Red Company, which is 20 state troops armed with halberds, has a sergeant, standard bearer, as well as drummer. The Blue Company, which has 20 state troops armed with halberds, has a sergeant, has a standard bearer, as well as a drummer. Next comes the Queen Rangers, which are 20 Empire archers. Next, we have Donner, which is a great cannon, Blitzen, which is a Hellblaster volley gun, and of course, we have the Panzerbaron, which is an Empire steam tank. And that rounds up my opponent's army list. And with that, let's get to the deployment. So you can see in the battlefield here, that's the battlefield that we're laid up. Not very much terrain on this one, unfortunately. We kind of rolled kind of low for our terrain choices. But as for my force, as you can see in the left-hand corner there next to the steam tank, is my one of my Sylvaneth Wildwoods, and another Sylvaneth Wildwood is over there on the right-hand side, right behind that unit of archers. So and then you can see my army right there in the center as well, and his army laid out before me. So let's go into the individual deployment zones and talk about where everything's located at.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one's better, more creative.
Alright, so you can see here's deploying my center. I have one of my Sylvaneth Wildwoods. I have my Martyrs and Poets, which are my 6 Treekin on the left-hand side. I got my 4 Shamblers and my Treekin on the right-hand side. And right behind them we have Dryka, the Branch Wraith, who's kind of holed out there in the forest. So that's deployment for my center. And over here on my right side of my battlefield, I have Darthu deployed. He's right next to a Sylvaneth Wildwood, which is right next to the base of that tower. He's also taking cover behind the tower because my opponent has war machines. I don't want him shooting at Darthu in the first phase of the battle, so that's where he's located right there. And then, of course, the rest of my army is waiting off on the spirit paths, so that way they can teleport in on later rounds during my movement phase. So that is deployment for my army on this side.
We're willing to use blood magic to put you on the throne, but we're not willing to pay men to fight. I've never heard of visions and prophecies winning a war. Soldiers win wars. Soldiers on the ground. It's dirty on the ground.
Alright, so let's talk about the Empire's deployment on the left-hand side. You can see next to that Sylvaneth Wildwood is a steam tank. Right next to them, of course, is the Blue Company, which is 20 units of halberds. And on the right of them, in that massive unit of 20 guys with the yellow and red, that's the Black Company, which is a massive unit of 20 great swords. As you see behind them there, the guy with the massive warhammer, that's their warrior priest. The guy with the green with the sickle, that is their wizard. Victor Helsbrad and Gregor von Drachenfels accordingly. Behind them, the massively huge standard bearer is Dieter Moons, who is a general of the army. And you can see in the back there on the hill, we have a Hellblaster volley gun as well as a great cannon. So that pretty much makes up my enemy's left flank on this part. And in my opponent's center there, you can see another unit of 20 Halberdiers. Those are the Red Company, and they're located right there next to another Sylvaneth Wildwood, as well as watching the left-hand side of the Black Company. So that makes up my opponent's center line. And over here in the right-hand flank, in front of those Sylvaneth Wildwood, you can see that we have 20 Empire Archers. Those are Marcus Wolfheart's Monster Hunters, basically what they are. And proxying for Marcus Wolfheart, because we really don't have a model for that guy, is that Wizard model in the middle. That is a proxy for Marcus Wolfheart, and that pretty much makes up my enemy's right-hand flank. So that is deployment for this battle.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one's better, more creative.
All right, so we rolled out for initiative, and basically I got the first turn. So you can see here in the middle of the board there, for my command ability, I used Dorothy's Tree Singing ability, brought up Sylvaneth Wildwood right there in the center of the table. I also used Drake of the Branch Wraith's Rouse to War spell, rolled my 7 and pulled up 7 Dryads that were deployed right in front of that forest there, which is really good because my plan is to send them forward into one of those units to kind of time up to keep them from moving around. So that way I can buy my units sometimes across the board. So that's command phase in this picture. And with command phase, then we move on to the movement phase. As you can see, there has been some. First of all, let's talk about my units that got teleported in. My opponent parked his units next to his my Sylvaneth Wildwoods, but my guys have to be within 3 inches of the woods, yet 9 inches away from the enemy when they teleport in. And the way that my opponent had basically stashed his units around my Sylvaneth Wildwoods, he put them near the woods, which is really good, but he also allowed it to where there was a buffer of 9 inches of space on the other side of the woods, but would also keep me within 3 inches of it. Basically, he put his units within 6 inches from the edge of the Sylvaneth Wildwoods, which left me just a small amount of space, but a large enough space for me to deploy my units. So you can see back on the left-hand side, I got Sternbark, my tree man. He's looking on the left-hand side there to attack the steam tank. Over in the back, which is kind of blurry, I can't really see it too well. I'm going to zoom in with another picture so you can see it better. I have both my Court of Winters and the Court of Summer, as well as Coadil, my Treeman Ancient, and I also teleported Durthu back there as well, so they get another wonderful little charge and the back forces for his horses located at. As you can see in the foreground and the center of the board where those Sylvaneth Wildwood are that Durthu summoned up, both units basically moved forward as fast as they could into those forests. So located there as well. As you can see, I also moved up my Dryads up to the Red Company so that way they can bog them down and get them suppressed. So that way I can give my units in the back some time to move around as well. And as you can see there, that Drake of the Branch Wraith also moved up to that Sylvaneth Wildwood in the center, basically to lend up some magical support. So that pretty much rounds up the movement phase in my army. I'm going to show you some zoom-in pictures so that way you can see how the rest of the army kind of teleported in real quick. So here's a close-up picture of my Treekin as well as my Branch Wraith bringing up to the center there, as well as my Dryads getting ready to charge the Red Company, so that's pretty cool. Here's a close-up picture of Sternbark the Tree Man on the other side of that Sylvaneth Wildwood planning on charging into the steam tank, so that set me up for a wonderful flank charge on that one. And here's a close-up picture of my forces that teleported in the back line there. So you can see there my Court of Summers followed by Coadil, starting from the left. And then you have my Court of Winters followed by Durthu. So it's going to set me up for a wonderful pincer attack. I'm probably going to send in my Dryads to charge into the back ranks of those forces. Same with my Treemen as well. So it's going to be pretty epic here in a little bit. And basically this is where my opponent made the mistake of giving me enough room to teleport my forces in. So yeah, that's movement for this one.
This is my boomstick!
So with movement done, we go to the shooting phase. As you can see in this picture, Durthu as well as Coadil open into that unit of archers. We managed to plink off about 6 of those guys. So we killed 6 of those archers, which is pretty awesome. So that's shooting on this side of the board. And on this side of the board, Sternbark managed to plink off 2 wounds off of this Sternbark, off of the steam tank, which is also pretty awesome as well. So yeah, that pretty much rounds up the shooting phase. And with shooting done, we go directly into the charge phase. Now, right off the bat, I have to apologize. I didn't take pictures of the charge phases. I got so excited about doing the combat phase that I forgot to take my charge phase pictures. So these are the pictures I'm going to show you basically what happened after the combat phase. So you can see here in this picture, Sternbark charges into the steam tank. They both fight it out. Excuse me. By the end of the battle, basically, Sternbark took on 4 wounds from him from the steam tank, and the steam tank took on a whopping 7 wounds, which is pretty amazing in that part. So that happened for the charge as well as the combat phase on this side of the board. In the charge and combat phase, in the center part of the board, as you can see here, my Court of Summers charge into the 2 war machines, Donner and Blitzen, which are located on top of the hill there. They also plot in for the attacks, as you can see at this picture. Basically, my Dryads had no problem wiping out those war machines. they cut them down to a man, which is pretty awesome. So I no longer have to worry about the war machines attacking my treekin, and now I set myself for a wonderful rear charge into the characters on the hill there, and also to the back of the Blackguard. Sorry, the Black Company. So yeah, that was combat and charging on this side of the board. As you can see in this picture, the charging as well as the combat phase, Kuadil goes in the back of the Red Company there, which is located there, and basically goes to war with them. He manages to plink off 6 of those halberdiers. At the same time, they manage to take 2 wounds in the process of doing so, which is not much of a trade-off in my opinion. However, now I'm kind of worried because now I'm realizing that maybe sending in my Treeman by himself, especially Treeman Agent, against this big unit of state troops might have been a bad idea. So that's combat and charge in this one. With charging and combat on this side of the board, I also kind of floated a little bit on that one, which I was pretty sad about.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Yeah, the 40 attacks I only had on this that I had with my Dryads, I only managed to kill 5 more archers. I managed to inflict a wound on Marcus Wolfhart in exchange. The Empire characters were not able to do anything back. The archers couldn't hit anybody. I said anything with Marcus Wolfhart. They didn't do any damage back, but that was pretty lackluster in my Dryads. With 40 attacks, they should do a lot more damage than they did, so I was kind of sad about that, so that part was pretty bad. So yeah, that's what happened in combat on this side, as well as the charge phase. And with that, we move on to the Empire.
We're willing to use blood magic to put you on the throne, but we're not willing to pay men to fight. I've never heard of visions and prophecies winning a war. Soldiers win wars. Soldiers on the ground. It's dirty on the ground.
Alright, so the Empire turn number 1, we go to the command phase. As you can see in this picture, basically the Empire General basically planted his standard. So long as 3 of his Empire troops movements don't move at all, they get bonuses to hit as well as bonuses to wound. And when combined with their discipline special that they get for the battalion, and combined with their presence of being near a character, these unit guys actually got a really big buff when it came to their hits and to wound scores. As you can see though, the Blue Company, with all their bonuses combined, the Blue Company has a +3 to their hit, as well as +1 to wound, which is actually pretty devastating. Same thing with the Black Company. They got +3 to hit, as well as +1 to wound. And then the other side of the board, which is the Red Company, they got +1 to hit and +1 to wound as well. And that's a pretty devastating command ability. And when stacked with state troops discipline, makes for a really deadly combo, which we'll see later on in this battle. So yeah, that was a pretty intense command phase for them as well. At the same time, his warrior priest also cast healing hands upon the unit of the Red Company and brought back 3 more of his warriors. So yeah, that worked out pretty well for him. So that is the command phase for this turn. In the move phase, you can see in this picture, he decided to retreat some of his forces. So you can see in this picture, basically he caused a steam tank to run is what he did. So he got 2d6 plus whatever d6 roll he got to get his steam tank to get the heck out of there. As you can see there, he kind of fled pretty far and turned his tank around in order to engage Sternbark as well. I thought that was kind of a big mistake on his part because I could easily hit them in the side there with my Treekin, but luckily for him that I wasn't planning on using those guys to do that. So that's moving on this side of the board for him. As you can see on this side, there's also been more retreating going on for his archers. As you can see, Marcus Wolfhart and his archers basically ran away and then turned around in order to engage my Dryads at distance. So yeah, basically he was just trying to keep his troops alive. The rest of his forces don't move because of his command ability, so that pretty much rounds up the move phase for this one.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
Since none of his other units can move or charge because of their command ability, we go directly to the combat phase on this part. As you can see in this picture, Coedil managed to cut that unit, the Red Company, in half, but with those bonuses to hit as well as those bonuses to wound, they managed to put on a lot more wounds onto Coedil. They slapped on 6 more wounds in that bad boy. So I'm starting to realize now that maybe having my Treekin go up against state discipline troops with their bonuses and with that command ability is a really bad idea. So yeah, combat didn't go so well for me. But I managed to wipe out the units, so it is kind of a fair trade, but at the same time, kind of uncomfortable with it. So yeah, that rounds up combat for this, and it's on to the Wood Elf's turn.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one's better, more creative.
Alright, so this photo is taking place after the command as well as the movement phase. As you can see in this picture for the command phase, basically I sung up another another Sylvaneth Wildwood to put in front of my Dryads there, as you can see on the left-hand on right side. I also cast another spell for Rouse the War. I managed to sum up another 6 Dryads, which are the Brian Dryads you see to the left of my Treekin. And then with the movement phase, you can see on this side, I teleported Dirthy from the back of the board right next to Sternbark as well. So that way he can get himself up a wonderful flank charge into the blue company there. I also move up my brown Dryads, my newly summoned Dryads, to charge into the blue company's front. I also move up both my units of Treekin, so that way they can set themselves up for a wonderful charge into the black company, which is there in the center. In the back of the board, I moved the hill out of the way so that way you can see the battle better. And as you can see there, I got my Court of Summers. They also moved up as well to do a wonderful back charge into the black company as well as to the characters as well. So it's going to give them a nice little pincer attack. And as you can see on the right-hand side, I put my Court of Winters into like a column formation and kind of snake them up forward and move in their maximum movement allowance. That way they can charge in the flank of the red company as well. So that is the mixture of command as well as movement at the top of this one. With movement out of the way, we go directly into the shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
And unfortunately for me, I kind of flubbed spectacularly on that one.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable! You keep using the horde. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Sternbark and Coadil both fire into the blue company, and all we do manage to do was kill one guy, so that was pretty pathetic on that part. So that's pretty much shooting on this side of the board. Coadil's shooting, on the other hand, happened to be made up of pure epicness wrapped in awesomeness. It was pretty cool to see what I did there. He managed to plink off 6 of those members of the Blue Company all by himself in the shooting phase, and it was pretty awesome. So, I'm starting to realize that maybe Coadil is probably the man when it comes to shooting, so I need to keep him around for long-distance stuff and magic and stop sitting into combat all the time and just let Sternbark and Dirthy do all the combat and heavy lifting for him. So yeah, that pretty much rounds up my shooting phase. With shooting all done, we go directly into the charge phase. As you can see in this picture, there has been some charges. In this picture, that pretty much sums up all the charges. Basically, I decided to swarm everything. Swarming seems like to be the big thing to use with this army. So you can see that I have Dirthy and Coadil as well as my 6 newly summoned Dryads charging into the blue companies over there. As you can see in the center board, I have my Treekin, both units of Treekin charging successfully to the black company. Behind them, my Court of Summers also charges into the heroes, as well as in the back ranks of the black company. So that part is pretty epic. As you can see on the right-hand side, the Court of Winters as well as Coadil kind of swarm around the remnants of the red company, and that pretty much sums up the charge phase in this part. So yeah, a lot of combat and a lot of deaths could be happening here in a few seconds.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
Close combat on this side of the board was actually pretty epic for me. As you can see in this picture, Dirthy is within 3 inches of that Sylvaneth Wildwood there to his left. So because it gets D3 additional attacks, I rolled a 6 on that, so he ended up having 6 total attacks that he unleashed on top of the blue company. 3 of those attacks went through, and it wiped out 18 of the unit all by himself. He also gets another attack because of his Impaling Claws attack. Got that successfully, killed the 19th man. That unit is now destroyed, so it's pretty epic. So that unit is no more. It's been vaporized off the board, and combat is looking really good for me at this point. As you can see in this picture, combat was kind of a mixed result for me. As you can see, I managed to kill 14 members of the Black Company, but at the same time, though, the Black Company managed to wipe out half of my units of the Treekin for both of them. They managed to kill 3 Treekin of my Martyrs and Poets, as well as 3 Treekin of my Force Shamblers, and that was pretty lackluster considering the amount of damage and the amount of attacks these guys put out. Treekin are starting to disappoint me a little bit in this version of the games in Age of Sigmar, so I'm thinking about maybe getting rid of that for my next battle report and trying out something a little bit different with those guys, because this is like the third time that the Treekin have been pretty lackluster for me, so I'm thinking about switching it up. Same thing with my Dryads in the back there. They also didn't do very well either. They managed to kill off the Warrior Priest, which is pretty cool. So that guy is dead. But they only managed to inflict 1 wound on the General and inflict 2 more wounds up on the Wizards. So that was pretty much that for that one. So it's pretty neat that we got rid of most of the Black Company, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too unfair, my Treekin, just because the Black Company also got bonuses to hit as well as the wounds, so maybe that's why I didn't do so well. But still, I don't know. I gotta really think long and hard about what I'm gonna do with my Treekin and maybe substitute for somebody else for the next battle report. So yeah, that pretty much puts up combat on this side of the board. And combat on this side of the board was pretty bad for my opponent anyways. My opponent basically chose to go first with his combat on this side when it came down to it. And he decided to attacking Kodo, my tree man, and he decided to whittle down my unit of Dryads. He thought it would be easier to wound them with, especially with his bonus to hit and to wound. And my opponent just flubbed his rolls spectacularly. He only managed to kill 2 of my Dryads out of the process, and then my Dryads and my tree man, Kodo, were basically able to just slaughter that unit to the last man. So the Red Company is no more, and I only lose 2 Dryads out of the exchange. So that pretty much sums up combat phase. And with that basically over, we move on to the Empire's second turn.
We're willing to use blood magic to put you on the throne, but we're not willing to pay men to fight. I've never heard of visions and prophecies winning a war. Soldiers win wars. Soldiers on the ground. It's dirty on the ground.
Sorry for the blurriness of this picture, but as you can see here, this is the end of the top of turn 2 after command and movement phase. For his command phase, basically he decided to bring back his command ability to hold the line, basically. So all of his troops receive bonuses to hit and to wound as well. Well, the troops are remaining. As you can see, there's not very many left. And as for the move phase, you can see that his team tank basically trumbles forward to get closer to Durthu for a charge. And he also moves up his archers and Marcus Wolfhard to come up there. And as you can see, there's not really much of his troops left. I basically asked if he wanted to give up at this point. He was like, no, forget it. I want to keep going. I want to fight. And so he kept on going, even though he lost pretty much all of his army. So, you know, give it to King Khalifa. The dude's a pretty good champ when it comes to that. So that is the photo on this.
This is my boomstick!
In the shooting phase, you see in this picture, Panzerbrand opens up with his cannon as well as his multiple shots. Managed to plink off 3 wounds off of Durthu, which is kind of sad, so I was really upset about that. So yeah, that's shooting on this side of the board. And to make things worse for my opponent, basically his archers on the other side of the board with Marcus Wolfhard basically missed all their shots. So they didn't manage to do anything. So my opponent at this point is getting really frustrated. He was really upset for himself for making the deployment mistakes that he did. That allowed my guys to teleport in, and now his shooting's doing so bad. So he's getting kind of upset. But give it to King Khalifa, though, for being a champ to see this game all the way through. So yeah, that's rounds of the shooting. And with shooting out of the way, we go directly to the charge phase. Basically, he only charges one thing because everyone else is in close combat and his archers can't charge in. So he sends the pain train on Panzerbaron and he smashes right into Durthu. Luckily for me, though, when it came to the roll for how many mortal wounds that the steam tank does, he only inflicts 1. So Durthu loses another wound on top of that. So he's wounded now 4 times. And then he also puts another wound on one of my Dryads and kills one of them in the process. So that pretty much sums up the movement phase for my charge phase for my opponent. With charging out of the way, we go directly into the close combat phase.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
And the very first combat he decides to use is the steam tank, and that SOB, man, King Khalifa, he just loves sticking it to me in like the worst way. I mean, that guy is just like annoying. He managed to put 2 more wounds onto Durthu, managed to kill off like 2 more of my Dryads in the process as well. I managed, of course, I just like deep 6 his steam tank like it's nobody's business because Durthu's a freaking man when he's next to Sylvaneth Wildwood. But man, King Khalifa, man, he just likes, you know, messing with you. He's like, no, I injured Durthu. I upset you, so it's a moral victory is what he told me. And so it was kind of funny. We kind of laughed about it. It was hilarious. So yeah, that's a combat on this side of the board. And in this picture, my Dryads and my tree can basically slaughter the rest of his troops, the rest of his characters, but not before his characters basically stuck it to me. Kills another one of my tree kin, which really upset me. Also killed a handful of my Dryads as well. So yeah, King Khalifa did not die alone. He basically took some of my guys out of it as well. So with combat done, all of his forces pretty much done, that pretty much sums up the combat phase on this side. So with the combat phase over, my opponent looks at the board, realizes the only thing he has left is his archers, and he basically calls the game. He was like, you know, I'm done. I just want to inflict a couple more wounds for the last second before I left, just to stick it to you one last time, and he surrenders the game. So you can see here in this picture, as you can see in this picture, almost all my guys are still left. All 3 of my tree men are still up there. Both my units are largely intact. My tree kin took a beating in this battle, which is pretty sad about that part. And all he has left is his archers there on the sides. So yeah, with that being done, we're going off to the actual report because this game is over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the After Action Report. This is the part of the battle where we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can do for the next time or repair and learn. So this is After Action Report for Battlefield number 4. This is me, Commander Cheapskate of the Wild Hunt with my Sylvaneth army versus King Khalifa of the Schwarzwald Free Company of the Empire. So let's break it down. First of all, the thing that basically won me this battle was King Khalifa's deployment errors. It's just plain and simple. Dumb luck, nothing more. He didn't deploy his troops close up to the Sylvaneth Wildwood, and because of that, I was able to teleport my forces into the other side of the board. This allowed me to strike in a pincer attack, and also allowed me to take out his artillery. It also allowed me to flank his steam tank pretty quickly and bring on the Pan that warn. So, yeah, if it wasn't for that, I would never have won this. I don't think this battle would have turned out a lot differently. I think a lot more casualties would have inflicted on my side of the board, and it wouldn't have been so one-sided on that part. As for keeping Dirth in the deployment zone, that any way you can tree sing, that seems like it'd be a really good idea at this point. I like the idea of deploying them on the board so that way you can bring in more Sylvaneth Wildwoods. That way my forces can teleport in as they need to based on what's happening on the battlefield, so that part's pretty neat as well. The ability to swarm with chaff units being summoned by my branch wraith basically saved me this battle. There was 2 times where I basically summoned up 2 units of Dryads. Both those units basically got chewed up, but what they did is they bought me time in order to get his units into unwanted combat, so that gives me my time for my troops to move around the battlefield and to strike at different parts. So that part was extremely valuable in my opinion. I'm thinking about maybe putting another branch rate in my army and taking out the treekin and replacing it with other things. So yeah, we'll see how that works with that part. The idea of surrounding and pounding my opponent seems to be the best, basically strike with mass. Same thing with not sending my treemen in anymore by themselves. So now I'm realizing that maybe the best combination is to send treemen with Dryads of some sort, or with treemen and having them treekin and having them work together and fight it out. So I basically will have to start doing that whole swarming with mass and having my troops load up. Treekin are starting to annoy me right now. These last 3 battle reports, the treekin have been pretty lackluster so far, so they're starting to annoy me a little bit because of that. They take too much damage. They don't dish out enough damage of their own. Maybe I'm not using them right. Maybe that's what it is. If you guys have any comments or ideas about what to do with treekin, feel free to leave them in the comments section, so that way you can help me out with that, because I'm thinking about substituting them with another unit entirely, and for my next battle report, having a totally different unit take up that slot of troops. So yeah, if you have any ideas with the treekin, please, by all means, throw some in the comments section. Help me out with that part. Basically, once again, the only thing that saved me in this battle was the deployment error that King Khalifa made. Basically, plain and simple as that. It was luck that saved me, so kudos to that. King Khalifa is still a champ. He never gave up, even though I had him completely surrounded. I destroyed his war machines, and I was scoring him from all sides. He is made of pure steel and awesomeness, and that guy is just pure champ. And he likes to stick it to you before he dies, too, which is also another cool thing about him. He doesn't give up until the bitter end, so yeah. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that rounds up the combat for this one. So we're all done with the battle report for Battlefort number 4. Tune in next time. If you want to get, if you like these battle reports, keep on clicking on this subscription button. All these battle reports get uploaded every single week. Leave your comments, concerns, complaints, or suggestions in the comments section. I would really like the back and forth of commenting with my audience members, so keep that up. So yeah, that pretty much sums it for this one. So see you on the flip side.